This has been one of the strangest NHL preseasons I can remember, and we need to talk about it. So today, instead of one or two shorter videos, I'm going to do a roundup and breakdown of some of the biggest stories across the league, starting with the one I find most interesting, the now very public spat between Jeremy Swayman and the Boston Bruins, and this has gotten ugly. I'll get to the breakdown in the background in just a moment, but today the Boston Bruins and Cam Neely, president of the team, took the very strange and rare step of publicly calling out their supposed number one goaltender during contract negotiations. They put down the contract they supposedly offered him in front of everyone to see. A $64 million contract, most are guessing 8x8. With basically exasperation that he hasn't signed yet. Other contracts were brought up during the press conference, but this is the one that got all the attention because you can see the Bruins executives are clearly trying to put the pressure of the public on Swayman during these contract talks. The big quote of the night from Cam Neely was, "I don't want to get into the weeds with what his ask is, but I know that I have 64 million reasons why I'd be playing right now." And I mean, Cam Neely, a career shortened by knee injuries, I think he appreciates the possibility of guaranteed money. For their part, Swayman's camp responded publicly by saying, "This is a really strange situation, but this $64 million mentioned, we've never heard about that. There was no offer reaching that level. We're extremely disappointed, and this was not fair." So I'll get to the breakdown in a second, but we're very lucky to have today's video sponsored by friend of the channel, Manscaped. They sent us the new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Forged Gold. I gotta say, I love the different colors each time. And this is a great product. You get next-gen dual skin-safe blade heads, one trimmer blade and one foil blade, which are engineered for excellence. The trimmer blade has longer, wider, and rounder teeth, while the foil blade provides a sleek, smoother finish. I'm going to show you guys how to change it. It's super easy. You just take your thumb, push up on the blade, that's it. I'll show you a couple other features, really everything you need to know. There's a light with different modes to match different skin tones. There's a really helpful lock feature, which now gets its own button. That's new to the 5.0 line, so instead of pressing the power button 3 times, you just hold this for 3 seconds. And what's really nice, you also get a USB-C charging cord and brick, which I can never have enough of those. And of course, the device is waterproof and easy to clean. So if you want to support the channel and join the over 10 million men who trust Manscaped for their grooming needs, you can step into the golden era with the Lawnmower 5.0 Gold. Just go to manscaped.com, get your Forged Gold edition, use promo code ECK20 to get 20% off, plus free international shipping. Anyway, this has been a relationship which has sort of been falling apart in front of our eyes, I feel. I find it concerning that when Boston is talking about signing Swayman, the main line they've been trotting out is that they're confident they can get it done before December, which is the point where you need to sign free agents to play for the year. The thing is, Boston has completely misplayed a goalie situation, which, I don't know, I'd say 28 of the other teams in the league would have been jealous of. Ullmark was moved to Ottawa, and not only was I pretty unhappy with their return there, broke it down in a video at the time, by the way, if you're interested, but they moved all the power to Swayman, because let's be honest, Swayman is probably better, but Ullmark, more than serviceable as your team's starting goaltender. Obviously, the trade market is more difficult if you're in a position of weakness with one of the goalies signed on an extension, but I've been worried about this for the Bruins ever since Swayman started publicly discussing the upcoming contract. He talked about having studied business at Stanford, which, all right, and that he wanted to make sure he wasn't screwing over the goalie market by taking a low deal. And I know people often wonder, why do these players try to get as much as they can out of each contract? Is 7 by 8.5 really that much different than 7 by 9? When you're already so wealthy? And maybe not, but a lot of the players and the NHLPA as a whole feel like it's a player's duty to earn as much as they can, not just for themselves, but because they'll be used as a comparable when guys are signing their own contracts later on, whether they're as good or significantly worse. If it is true that Swayman wants more than $8 million a year, however, I do think he's going to lose a bit of public support for what that matters anyway, and I think that's why the Bruins put the number out there. Keep in mind, Jeremy Swayman has only 132 NHL games under his belt. He's asking for a major commitment, and if I'm a Bruins fan, I do not want them paying more than $8 million a year. But another truth is that I think the goalie market has a reckoning coming. Similar to how I think D-men, especially after the last 2 off seasons, are now seeing major bumps in pay. Jeremy Swayman, I would argue, is a top 5 goalie in the NHL. He's right on that level with Hella Hellebuyck, Shesterkin, Demko, Vasi, and the like. And it is kind of wild that for a top 5 position player in a position on the ice for the entire game, making or breaking an NHL team, we seem to be capping out at around $8 million a year, with some exceptions like Bobrovsky, who's getting 10. Now, I think that's going to change when Shesterkin signs his new contract, which is probably going to be $12 million a year. But for a top 5 forward right now, say Panarin, you're looking at $11.5 million. So yeah, I don't know how this situation is going to play out. I don't think Boston is interested at all in a sign-in trade or anything like that. But let me know your thoughts down below. So the other really big story this week is the Patrik Laine injury, and this just stinks. Obviously, preseason game against Toronto, he's crossing the blue line, full-on knee-on-knee collision with the Toronto player, and I'm not going to get into whether this was on purpose or not, and it doesn't matter, really. Laine obviously has suffered a very serious injury here and could realistically miss the entire NHL season. I'm gutted for Laine. Whether through injuries or the player assistance program, he hasn't played an entire NHL season since 2019, and a lot of people were looking forward to his return to Canada. I almost said homecoming, but obviously not. Anyway, Laine's injury was from a guy named Pare, sort of career AHL guy so far within the Leafs organization. A lot of people thought it was nonsense. Totally get that. Don't really want to play that game myself because I can't read a dude's mind in split seconds. It certainly looked bad. Either way, Arbor Xhekaj obviously had some thoughts about it. He tried to fight Pare, and to no avail. The guy did not want a slice of that. Honestly, and I love Xhekaj, but that should have been a suspension. Completely should have been a suspension. And I think he would have accepted one. I think most Habs fans would have accepted one because you do gotta do something like that when someone takes a shot at your superstar in preseason. I think you need to get a game there. Instead, they handed out a fine, maximum under the CBA. But yeah, and wouldn't you know it, first game of the regular season, guess who the Montreal Canadiens will be playing? The Toronto Maple Leafs. Wednesday, October 9th. It'll be entertaining. Oh, I should also mention in the same game, David Reinbacher also went out. It didn't look like very much, but there's worried that he'll be out long-term as well alongside Laine, so it just stinks. Two last things I wanted to quickly mention. For one, everything I've seen of Utah has been great so far. They released some of the concession prices today, and it's shocking how low they are. It's like they took the square root of what you'd pay at a Leafs game. And we also saw a preseason crowd at their stadium, and it looked great. I'm super excited to watch them play. But moving away from NHL preseason news, as some of you know, we like to cover the Halifax Mooseheads, my local CHL team on the channel. Definitely going to be doing more vlogs this year. You guys love those. But this was supposed to be a rebuilding year, but they went ahead and started the season 4-1, which included wins against Cape Breton and Moncton. Pretty strong teams. They did have their first loss of the season tonight against the Charlottetown Islanders. That was 3-1. But they've got their home opener next week, and I'm pretty excited. Now listen, this is the CHL. Weird things happen. I don't think the Mooseheads are going to be a real playoff contender this year. I will say Mathis Rousseau is probably the best goalie in the CHL. Unfortunately, he may be one of those guys like destined to dominate in juniors because he's kind of small for a goalie, 5'11", meaning that he'll stick around and continue to dominate. But I would expect that the Mooseheads have a pretty mediocre to bad season, then move him at the trade deadline to expedite their rebuild. But I guess we'll see. Anyway, if you guys want more of these longer videos, maybe once a week or so, especially once the season gets started, let me know. But thanks again to Manscaped for the sponsor, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.